Hey guys, just a quick note before we begin that the show may contain spoilers and adult language, but that's just because we know how to have a good time. Stick around, you'll be glad you did.
You are here for me to enlighten you.
You ever act like this again, you're barred for life.
It's just vile and base.
It's kind of embarrassing.
If you know your lines, then you can forget them.
Oh, I get it. It's very clever.
Hello, peoples, and welcome to Esoterica Cinema, the podcast where we take films from the cinematic multiverse and discuss the hell out of them. My name is Jason Peters, and with me, as always, is the man who was recently fired from his job as a celebrity limousine driver, Mr. Ryan Seabold.
What's up, Jason? How's it going, buddy?
It's going well, man. It's going well. Better than you, apparently, man. Really sorry to hear about the old pink slip there. That kind of sucks.
I know, dude. It was a rough break. Here's the thing. I did not know that the glass wall in between us wasn't soundproof.
Oh, wow.
Right. And it got a little dicey. I said some things. Also, not for nothing, I was listening to a lot of our podcast. Hot take. A lot of celebrities don't like what we're saying about them.
I was going to say, dude, I had one of two guesses. I was going to guess that you were you had either Tom Cruise or Ron Howard, one of those two guys.
I think the deal breaker was when I said at the top of the season something about Peter Jackson never taking a shower or doing laundry. Oh. And he didn't really care for that too much. And he was wealthy enough to put me out of business. So
that's kind of balls because, I mean, it's not even like you were wrong. I mean, look, I love the dude's movies, but I mean, he is one of those people that always looks like he needs a bath, like 100%.
No, definitely. Yeah. There's twigs and things in his beard. It's weird, but
shit, there was just a knock at my door. I think Peter Jackson's here. God damn it. That guy has tendrils everywhere. Fuck. Anyways, Ryan, what movie you got for us this week?
Jason, this week is a fever dream called Holy Motors, directed by Leos Carax from 2012.
That's probably not how you pronounce that.
It is. It totally is. Get this.
Leos Carax?
Leos Carax. And here's the deal. It is an anagram of two names, Alex and Oscar. So you read it as such. Leos, you read the middle like Oscar. So it's Leos Carax.
Dude, this guy's on some whole other shit, isn't he, dude?
Yes. Well, I mean, did you watch the movie?
I did. My apologies, though, sir. Continue.
Yeah! So Letterboxd has this described as, we follow 24 hours in the life of a man moving from life to life like a cold and solitary assassin moving from hit to hit. In each of these interwoven lives, the man possesses an entirely distinct identity, sometimes a man, sometimes a woman, sometimes youthful, sometimes old. By turns, sometimes murderer, beggar, company chairman, monstrous creature, worker, and family man. That's all you get. I tried to scour the internet for a better storyline or plot description. Good luck. I couldn't do it either. This movie does not have a plot. This is another one of those under the skin kind of experience films that just kind of washes over you. Jason, I'm here to tell you, I did the fucking deepest dive for this film to try to crack this nut.
Really?
And I hope I bring something to the table today. I understand, if I'm not mistaken, you and I are going to have a little disagreement on this film. Is that correct?
It does kind of seem that way, yeah. I mean, so listeners, Ryan and I try really hard not to talk about the films before the show. We want to do everything live here for you guys as we're sort of, learning what each other thinks about it as well. But we can kind of get a vibe, right? We'll usually text each other hey, finished the film. And there's just you do that 40, 50 times in a row with someone and you can kind of pick up on these tiny little idiosyncrasies, right? Like reading between the lines. So yeah, we didn't really get into it, but basically the vibe I got was that you really loved this film. Ryan, I'm going to tell you, this is probably the film that I had the hardest time responding to. I thought about this film probably more after the fact than most of the other films that we've looked at here, and certainly more than any other film that I will say I didn't love. right? I am going to come out and say that, and we're going to go into it why. But that being said, Ryan, I'm really glad that you did a deep dive. So, listeners, if you listen to the show, that Ryan often comes, pretty well prepared with the research. I just like to be a little bit more off the cuff, give you, sort of my own personal opinions and this and that and the other. So I was actually going to try to see if you had some insight on things, because again, Ryan, I'm usually pretty good about, if I sit down and I really think about something, I may come to an incorrect conclusion, but for the most part, I can at least sort of settle on, where my opinion lies. And there was just a lot about this film where even right now, I'm like, I don't 100% know that I got it, and that's what we're going to talk about. Is there stuff to get here? Is it a film you have to look at, either more deeply or perhaps more shallow, right? Maybe there's one film I was
the correct answer is both.
It reminds me of a film I watched recently again, The Fountain, which is Darren Aronofsky's film. And I remember the first
that movie.
It's not a great movie, but I remember part of it is I watched it the first time and I was like, I think there's more to this movie than I realize. I need to watch it again. And then I watched it again recently and I was like, no, surprisingly, this is one of those movies that feels like it should be really deep and complex, like a 2001 puzzle metaphor. And it was very straightforward. And so part of me wonders if I'm going to have that same reaction to Holy Motors after this discussion or go on the other route. So
I hope it's the other route. This movie consumed me like DMT consumes Joe Rogan. I was just all about this. I couldn't stop talking about this for the days after I watched it. I kept wanting to know more about it. And the more I started to dig in and find out what it is I just watched, the more curious I was and wanted to know more about it. I cannot wait to see Leos Carax's most recent film, Annette, on Amazon Prime.
I am still really looking forward to that one myself, too.
Right. Yeah. I've got a lot on my plate this week, but as soon as I get back in town from work and a few other things I have going on, I'm going to get to that. Yeah. Because so this rabbit hole took me to Annette, because obviously that's, all the articles when you start to look up Leos Carax and a cinematographer as Caroline Champetier, who's obviously French, and she shot both of these films. And Annette looks like this kind of with more of a budget and obviously more modern tools for cinematography. This was obviously 2012, was shot in 2011, Holy Motors meaning. And, that was a weird time period because it was right on the cusp of the digital revolution. So Red was just releasing their first lines of cameras. Everything was kind of just shifting from digital or from film to digital. And that wasn't shitty DV tape and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even the Canon 5D Mark II, where you could finally shoot 24 frames per second video on a still photo DSLR, that was around that time as well. And then just to kind of put things in context, that's when my career took off, doing a lot of sound, because I started to meet up with all these guys that all of a sudden could affordably shoot their dream projects on digital, and I was helping them learn how to run audio, and I made a lot of great connections, and then they started to shoot on Red and Airy, and my career flourished from there. Nice. But this was shot on a budget of $4 million back in 2011, released in 12, and it was shot on a Red Epic, on Angenieux zoom lenses and some Zeiss super speeds. I really love this movie. We're going to get into it. I'll let you take it away. As always, Jason, we know the answer to this, but what did you think about this movie?
I will be happy to tell you right after we listen to this trailer for Holy Motors. I got you guys. There is no trailer. It's a French film. You should know by now when we do the foreign films, there's no trailers, there's no clips, because we don't assume that you know what they're talking about any more than we do. So once again, this is another just Jason and Ryan for 90 minutes solid. Sorry, guys, but we'll do our best to entertain you. When this film opens, oh my God, I almost forgot. Ryan, I need you to tell me where we should start.
At the beginning,
of course.
Which, honestly, though, dude, for real, in this particular podcast, it doesn't matter. Pick up wherever. It's great.
Wherever you want.
Yes.
And that's been Holy Motors. Thanks so much for joining us.
I think Leos Carax would appreciate that review. I think that, honestly, he would give us a tip of the hat and say, well done. That's about all we needed to hear about it anyways.
When this film opens, we're actually treated to some quick old black and white footage of what I believe is a naked man prancing around before we actually cut to a darkened movie theater. Now, through a wide shot, which we could consider the POV of the movie screen, we are watching and seeing that it is a packed house, yet at the same time, we can't see a single person's face. Instead, everyone is lit harshly from above, allowing us to see only the outlines of all of the figures. Now, off-screen, we do hear dialogue that lets us know the audience is watching a crime film, and that is indeed solidified after we hear the firing of a gun. Now, the funny thing is that after about a minute or so of this, it does feel as though the audience is watching us watch them, which is somewhat disorienting, and in turn, I believe a good primer for the type of film that we're about to watch. Now, Ryan, from there, we do cut to an image of a guy lying down in bed. There's a dog next to him. He gets up, lights a cigarette, paces around. But the interesting thing is the sound design. What we hear are these sort of boat and ocean sounds, right? As if he's on some sort of big big ship. And it's interesting because, we very soon learn that he's in a hotel, like within a city. As a matter of fact, he's actually by the airport. He opens the window and we see an airplane landing on a strip. So there's right off the bat this disorienting juxtaposition between the audio and the video. Now he starts feeling against a wall, which has a bunch of tree like wallpaper, and sees this opening. All of a sudden notices that his hand, one of his fingers, I believe his ring finger, has become an elongated key, which he then enters into the opening, unlocks this door that's not really there. It's really just part of the wall that he pushes down. And then he shows up in a movie theater, okay? And in this movie theater, there's like a naked baby walking down the aisles. There's a giant dog roaming the aisles. We still get a lot of that sort of, steamboat and beachside audio. Ryan, what do you think this opening sequence is telling us as an audience?
Here's the thing. For starters, I will say that the man is played by Mr. Leos Carax himself.
Yes.
And I did a little history on this, and basically it's thought, number one, this is all kind of very French New Wave. It's also art for art's sake in the sense that he believes that everybody could take away from this film what they want. So you start to read reviews of this online and get different people's takes, and everybody can have a different opinion about it because, it's up to the viewer to get what their personal take on it was. But general consensus seems to believe that this was his return into cinema. So in 91, he releases a film called The Lovers on the Bridge that apparently went way over budget, was poorly received. He was coming off some hotness in the 80s, released a couple of French films out there. And then he did this big budget film, and it did not go well. It was with Juliette Binoche and our man Denis Lavant, who plays just about every main character in this particular film. That's his homie. Denis Lavant has been, I believe, starring in almost all of his films. So, and this guy is a tour de force, and we're going to get into that here shortly. But he was kind of ran out of town and wasn't able to get a lot of work. So when he made this almost 13 years later, or 10 years, a decade later, this was kind of he wakes up out of bed, lights a cigarette, and opens the key. He figures out how to get out of the confinements that he was in, albeit luxurious as they were, and finds his way back into the cinema. And upon his return to the cinema, he finds that the audience they've got darkened faces. They're experiencing it in a numb way. Altogether, there are the dogs kind of roaming the halls, and the naked or small child roaming was not a distraction to them. And so it's kind of my take from what I could gather online that in his return to cinema, he's finding that we are now experiencing performance art such as movies in a completely different way at this time. This is the dawn of social media.
Sure.
And the entire film then becomes a statement on how we're all performers in our own movie.
Yeah.
And we're all able to, through online means and other technological advancements, be the stars in our own production, and we could change those roles at will at the drop of a hat. So who I am to you or who I am on this podcast is not who I am to my parents. It's not who I am to women. It's not who I am to other family members or friends that I've met or work relationships and so forth. And we're all playing these roles. We're all changing hats constantly. And Denis Lavant goes through and shows us in the most extreme fashion possible the human condition as Leos Carax woke up to find it when he returned back to his job.
Okay. So, but
that's
here's the
kind
thing.
of where we're at.
That's sort of like a fancy way of saying like world building. But here's the thing, okay, is if everything is going to be a statement about something that is outside the film, that 100% explains why I had such a problem with this film. And that's something that we'll go ahead and get into here in just a little bit because I want to keep things moving along. So from there, we cut to this modern, expensive home. I thought it was interesting that the way it's shot, it actually does kind of look like a sailboat. Which
was intentional.
Yeah, of course, sure. And, it's this wealthy man. He's our protagonist, and he's named Oscar. Now, he's obviously very famous and very wealthy because he lives in a stretch limo. Obviously successful at what he does. And right off the bat, he has this very sort of cryptic conversation about getting guns, which immediately pivots to him combing his hair and turning on some vanity lights at a desk that is inside this limo. Now, he starts to prepare himself with makeup. And shortly after that, the car stops. Now, he exits disguised as an old woman, okay? And what he does from there is he begins to panhandle to the people. So now, Ryan, in the moment, I want you to sort of take off your, retrospective glasses. In the moment, what do you think is going on here as you're watching this?
Oh, I mean, I have no idea at this point. So this film kind of hit me like narcotics, where it took a minute to kick in. And as it started to come on, I felt like I was feeling something or whatnot, albeit, prescribed or recreational drugs, take it from my metaphor, what you will. But yeah, it took this. When this film started, I did not like it. I was pissed. I was almost pissed because I was like, is this another nonsense movie for the sake of being a nonsense movie? Like, is this some French David Lynch wannabe? And I'm going to watch some bullshit for 2 hours and not have any idea what happened in the end. And it's like, oh, well, just, how did it make you feel? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, go fuck yourself. How it made me feel. That was my entrance in it. Yeah. That's the first scene. By the time we get to, the third or so vignette, really actually the second with the mocap. Okay. Is when it really started to kick in. And I thought, and the beauty of it all and the performance of it all took me over. Denis Lavant's performance really won me over. Let's get into that. And the cinematography, I think both of those things paired so well that it drew me in, won me over, and then I was along for the ride. And then there were these key moments that we'll get to down the road, these some of the vignettes that we go through. Jesus, yeah, I mean, just so powerful, beautiful, well performed, well thought out. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah.
But yeah, the initial result or reaction was, my knee jerk was like, F this.
So at the time, I thought maybe that it was something where it was like, he had some sort of split personality or something that was going on, or, he's like super wealthy, and so he gets his rocks off like pretending to be someone else or like live in sort of like a very different body. That's obviously not going to be the case. So from there, he goes back into the car, and that's really, they set up the sort of structure of this film right up front, which is that he's always just inhabiting a different person, a different being, performs this vignette, and then goes back into the limo, and then does it all again. And basically, when he gets back after this time, he's removing his makeup and his wig, and he grabs a file for what's called his second appointment. And I believe his limo driver lets him know, hey, you're going to have 9 appointments. And so it's like, okay, so we're going to be basically going through like 9 different vignettes over the course of this film. Fine. The second sort of vignette is he, to your point earlier, gets himself in this sort of skin-tight black suit with these little balls attached to him. Looks like he's probably doing some mocap. Indeed, he is doing some mocap. So he gets to this sort of giant mechanical factory, and he goes inside and he grabs his staff and his blades, and he does some cool looking ninja moves and stuff. And the mocap's like infrared lasers, so they're tracking the balls as he's doing all this stuff. But then shortly thereafter, this other person walks in, and we can tell just from the figure that's silhouetted that it's obviously a female. And, she's kind of got a certain sexuality that she enters the room with. They approach, and then they sort of start gyrating and bending around one another, at which point he simulates fellatio, which, by the way, if you guys know anything about Annette, I'm pretty sure this dude is a fan of fellatio. And then he grabs her breasts, and then she reciprocates, and they start basically like 69ing in this mocap sort of way. Now, the funny thing about this, too...
I have in my notes, 69 upside-down Dutch angle in latex mocap suits. What the fuck kind of shot is that? I want to see that on a shot list someday. That's fantastic.
Right? And then not only that, but to me, the interesting thing, and again, it sort of establishes a theme that this, director is going to play with, is the sounds that he uses. So he adds these like very sort of squishy and grunty sound effects that are very inhuman, at which point, it kind of, the camera reveals that these two are basically playing these two serpentine demons that are like mating in some sort of weird hellscape. And Ryan, I think at this point, that was where I started to consider the fact that like, oh, okay, so this, to me, so it's kind of interesting that you talk about social media, because for me, I really thought that it was more of a metaphor for like acting and performance specifically,
Okay.
And how... And again, I didn't really come to a conclusion as to what exactly it was saying about that, other than, perhaps something about the disposable nature of acting, or the juxtaposition between it being sort of a raw examination of humanity, but also you could argue somewhat superfluous at the same time. But I mean, I guess you could kind of same thing about most art in general, right? So I could definitely, like I said, to me, I got the vibe that it was trying to say something about, performance, acting, etc. And especially there's like a brief conversation that comes into play later that sort of indicates that. But so I guess my question to you, Ryan, is, so you're saying this scene kind of started to win you over. I won't even pepper it with a specific question. I'll just ask you specifically, what about this sequence won you as a viewer over?
So there are a few things. The technical side of it, how it was shot. It's worth mentioning that Denis Lavant, as he walks into this, he gets out of the limousine in broad daylight on the rooftop of this building overlooking Paris, and goes into a doorway and walks into a totally black room. And he then puts on his suit of black latex, where only his face is exposed, and begins to... again, perform this video game, shooting guns. He's on a treadmill at one point with
that was a cool shot.
Projected backdrop, and he's doing a dead sprint shooting a semi-automatic rifle or automatic rifle of some kind. And but then we get into this performance art, and the twisting and turning of his body, the acrobatics and the dance of it all. He performed all that. Now, it's worth noting that Denis Lavant took courses in pantomime and the circus starting at age 13. One of his heroes is French mime Marcel Marceau, and he is Shakespearean trained. He did everything for this film, it's my understanding. So hats off to him for doing the body contortionist movements that were needed to get around his female companion as she gets in and they start to get sexual with each other and so forth. But I thought it was a tremendous statement on violence and sex. I thought it was shot very well. To your point, what you said earlier, the sound design of this, whether it be the squeak of the latex against each other, how the music would come in and out, if there was any, the body sounds. It was a very stripped down, kind of rough around the edges look at how human interaction has become digital and prioritized all at the same time. And it just kind of with the motion cap balls on their latex suits as well, acted as a light source, which I thought was very creative, and how their bodies would intertwine as they would perform the contortionist movements and so forth throughout the scene. I thought, it was very captivating. And this is the scene, because before this, we just had the old lady and, begging with the cane and all of that.
Sure,
and that was kind of a very easy going introduction to the craziness and madness that we're about to experience. But this kind of kicked it into full gear. And this is where I was like, I have in my notes here, am I having a stroke? Because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And I thought it was very shocking. Also that female contortionist lady that joins him was double cheeked up. Sure. Like crazy. That girl had some booty. So,
See, this whole sequence though, to me, it came across as so self-indulgent, man. Like I literally pictured, French the Room guy, and he's like, well, no, see, cause I'm really good at acrobatics. And so like everybody needs to see me like flipping across the room and stuff. And then I'm also really good at eating pussy. So like, I really want to do that on film so everybody knows that. And then, we can also just like, grab each other's breasts and like 69. It'll be a lot of fun. Like it felt like some Sean Connery shit where he's like, oh no, we got to do the fellatio scene again. Let's go ahead and do that one again from different angles and stuff.
No.
And it didn't feel artistic to me. It felt self-indulgent. It felt like it was like this dude just wanted this to be like his time to show off. And I didn't
but
get
that would mean that I would take
I didn't get that.
I would take you into an art museum and you'd look around and you'd be like, oh, look at all these titties and dicks. They just love titties and dicks. It's like, no, this is art, Jason.
Some of it can be, but that's also like you playing fucking Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver and taking fucking Sybil Shepherd out to a date to a porno theater and then being like, what? These people are just, like, it's not always art, dude. Yes, I understand that sometimes it can be, but I also understand that there's a lot of people that are entirely
There was no nudity in this entire film, which for a French film is really saying something.
That's not true. He shows off his dong quite a lot in the next scene, sir.
Well, it was blurred out on my copy. I don't know what copy you got, but yeah, I hear
okay,
what
but
you're
it was
saying.
still there. It was just blurred out. So let's continue because this is going to essentially be the same conversation throughout the entire thing. I mean, this film at this point, this is the structure. So for our next sequence, he goes back to his car. He gets another folder. He strips off his old makeup. He uses his new one to dress himself up as what I can only describe as an insane leprechaun who apparently just eats everything. And so he puts on these like long nails, makes himself look blind, and then he goes into this cemetery, finds a sewer, drops down, comes back up, which by the way, I did think was cool. I don't know if you noticed that Pharaoh Monch beat, like the OG Pharaoh Monch beat. I was like, right, that's where it's from. Oh shit. Like you knew it sampled it from something.
And do you know what that is?
No, what is it?
Let's go one step further down the rabbit hole.
Please.
That is the March of Godzilla from Godzilla versus Mothra, of all things.
Oh, shit. That's awesome. I love that, dude. Loved it so much.
Dun, dun. From Pharaoh Monch's infamous one-hit wonder, Simon Says. Shut the fuck up. And he lets it play in perpetuity. Like throughout the whole scene, we get this big, long, sweeping scene where the camera goes over the skyline and then goes through a cemetery and then finds its way onto a manhole. And then we go down to the manhole. It's this awesome shot
It's a cool shot, yeah.
Yeah, that plays out again, like Jason was saying, over or under the score of March of Godzilla. Go look it up. It's a sick song. And then we come in on this character, Monsieur Merde, which in French means shit. So it's Mr. Shit. Mm-hmm. And it's worth pointing out, Jason, that this is a character or a vignette that actually the only thing that pre-existed before this film. And it was made, this character and the vignette that we're about to go into is an offshoot or an extension of or a sequel to a character, Monsieur Morde, from Tokyo, which is a series of vignettes from Michel Gondry, Bong Joon-ho, and Denis Lavant. And he created his contribution to this feature film. If you have not seen it, it's pretty solid, is Monsieur Morde, and they go through and it's this gnome goblin creature that lives in the sewers that comes out and creates terror. I believe the first installment starred Kate Moss. This one is with Eva Mendes. And so this is a continuation of a story of a Mr. Merde.
And this guy just basically walks around eating shit and scaring kids and eating flowers. And then he stumbles into this beautiful woman, the Eva Mendes character. And then there's also some like weird Andy Warhol photographer guy who becomes fascinated by
him. It's a photography shoot.
Yeah, and then he asks,
and he walks into this fashion shoot, and the guy's like enamored by how weird this guy looks.
Yeah, and then his assistant basically is gonna like try to hire him, and then he just like all of a sudden bites her fingers off and causes mayhem, and then goes and grabs Eva Mendes and throws him over her back, and it's like this whole Hunchback of Notre Dame kind of thing where he like takes her back to his like trashy hideout, and then what does he do? He smokes and eats money, and then eats her hair. And then there's this whole thing where she's scantily dressed and he tears up her dress and turns it into more or less like a burqa and covers her up completely, at which point he gets completely naked and then, like cozies up to her and drapes himself in rose petals like some goddamn Renaissance painting. So, yeah, Ryan, tell me, what's going on?
So my take on this was representative to me of the internet troll sensation where men would come in and tell women what they can or cannot do. As grotesque as they may be in real life, they personify some powerful creature, and other people embolden them and cheer them on for false reasons. They can belittle women and tell them what they can or can't do dress-wise and so forth, even though they're able to do whatever they want and become monsters and make monsters of themselves.
And you thought that as you were watching this movie?
In a very literal sense. What's that?
And you thought that as you were watching this movie?
Absolutely,
that's what struck you?
Yes.
That is insane. That's absolutely insane.
How do you not see that that connection there? Did we not watch the same movie?
So here's the thing. So is the Hunchback of Notre Dame about trolling when it was written back in 1800?
No.
I'm just saying, I think that you're doing a lot of work for this guy. That's what I think.
No, I'm not at all.
That's exactly what I think happens with films like this and with filmmakers like this. It's the equivalent of modern art. It's the, I'm going to draw a black circle on a blank white piece of paper and then tell everybody it's my statement on racism. That's exactly what this movie is to me. It's nonsense, and then you go in and you're like, oh, this is what he was saying. Oh, no, this is what he was saying.
Denny Levant's performance, Caroline Champentier's cinematography.
The cinematography is very good. I will 100% give you that. It's wonderfully
shot.
shot.
The sound design, the technical aspects of this film.
The score is fine.
You're whittling it down. You're whittling it down to a black circle on white paper.
I'm whittling it down to what is like. There is no definitive statement. This is the equivalent of throw a bunch of shit up at the wall and hope it sticks and let other people sort through it and figure it out. That's exactly what this is.
Just because you don't want to see what the statement is or get anything from it. But don't you like David Lynch?
Different.
Don't you like David Lynch?
Yes, but David
Lynch.
Don't you
like Mulholland Drive?
Okay, so here's the thing. Mulholland Drive tells a narrative. It is an obscured narrative, and it is a difficult narrative. However, as somebody who went back and for a college paper watched that movie no less than 10 times and decoded every specific metaphor, Mulholland Drive tells a beginning, middle, and end. And that's and I will 100% come out and tell you part of my, so it's probably worth noting, I don't like vignette films. Let's just get that out of the way, okay? In my opinion, and that's essentially what it is it's a collection of short stories. Now, here's the thing. If you give me 4 complete, short 20 to 30 minute like episodes of television, I can get down with that. What I'm referring to right now is all of the different horror anthology movies. Love the Twilight Zone movie, love all those sort of trilogy of terror type films and things like that. Even some of the shitty ones, right? But so this reminded me basically a lot of Coffee and Cigarettes, for example, where it's, hey, let's tell 7 to 10 short little 3 to 5 minute stories, each of them saying something. But the problem is that when I come into a movie, I do expect a narrative, right? A beginning, middle, and end. That's what I have been conditioned to expect as a filmmaker. Now, if you can come up front and say, hey, bro, this is not like 99% of the films that you watch, so approach it differently, fine. This is essentially a pastiche of music videos. That's how you could describe it. Maybe they're not all music videos, but it's a pastiche of these self-contained vignettes, each saying something different, but also kind of saying the same. That's a fuck ton of work that you have to do outside of the film in order to appreciate it. And that's another thing that we'll get into in a little bit that I'll save for a moment later.
But you liked Under the Skin, and we talked about that, and you thought that was one of the best movies that we've watched on this podcast.
Because Under the Skin, it puts everything there on the screen and then lets you work it out. That's what I would argue. You may say otherwise, but I think for example,
But you,
as we
dude,
as we
the
talk
mental
about
gymnastics we had to do to figure that shit out afterwards.
We did. Exactly, but we did, and that's my exact point.
And I did. I figured this out, and I'm telling you, and you're like, no, fuck that, dude. That's too much work.
No, I'm not saying it's too much work.
I'm going to watch Friends.
I'm not saying it's too much work. I'm saying that I disagree with your assessment. I think that he jumped up your ass and convinced you that he was smart, and so you're like, oh yeah, he's brilliant. Let me find all the ways that he's brilliant. And I'm sitting here telling him, like, dude, this guy is blowing smoke. He is a snake oil salesman, and you just got taken, homie.
Quite the contrary. I walked into this film thinking it was a load of horse shit, and I was actually feeling the exact same way you walked out of it is how I walked into it.
That's
From the
very
moment
funny.
I have in my notes, and we didn't talk about this.
Switched places, because I was totally coming in. I've been looking forward to seeing this movie for a decade at least.
Dude, the studio intro for Indomia that opens this film up, by the way, was so fucking animated and pretentious, and I was like, oh, Christ. And then, it went on to do the, the theater thing, and he's like, going in a wall, and I'm like, from the get, bro, I've already got to, Rubik's Cube this shit from the minute I hit play and sort my life out. And then we go into the old woman with the cane, and I'm like, ugh. And it was really the mocap suit thing that got me started down that path.
Yeah.
And then, it was the Monsieur Mardet scene that really won me over. And I was just fascinated by Denis Lavant's performance in this whole thing and how, when he did take his clothes off, he was like a Rodin sculpture. His body movements as he would contort and shift certain ways was so sculpted and postured and intentional. The way they shot it, the way it's lit.
Dude, see, I'm so jealous right now. That's everything you're saying is what I wanted this film to be. I
would challenge you to go back and rewatch
to have this experience, but I didn't. And I even went back and I thought about it after the fact, and I was just like, no, dude, this doesn't work for me. Which
is hilarious, because the minute I shut this shit on, I thought, as I was hating it in the first few scenes and sequences, I was thinking in my mind, oh, Jason's gonna fucking love this too. Look at this.
It totally is one of those things, because you know what it is? It's it reminded me of French Jodorowsky, right? It's not really a narrative. Everything's steeped in metaphor and symbolism. And it's just, but the thing is, as I sit here, even now, as I break this down, I really don't feel like it's that deep. And that's the problem with, I hear what you're saying. Maybe I will give it some time and go back and watch it again with what you're saying and see if I can look at it through that lens. But again,
did you watch this alone?
I did. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I watch everything alone, dude. I don't subject my wife to these weird ass fucking films. Are you kidding me?
That's why you're still married.
I'm still married.
Got
exactly.
Yeah,
no. And again, dude, there are aspects of it. It was a film I so wanted to like. As a matter of fact, okay. Let me ask you about this next scene, okay? Because this one I didn't get, dude. It's the sequence where he doesn't really dress up in some weird costume. He basically just kind of is who he is. And he goes and he picks up his daughter from his party. And at first, everything's super cool because she's saying she had a great time and she danced with all these dudes and blah, blah, blah. And then he gets this call from her friend and realizes that she lied to him. And he gets really upset with the fact that she didn't go out and enjoy herself and dance with a bunch of dudes and basically got scared and hid in the bathroom the whole time. Now, here's the thing that bothers me about this sequence is you don't get the sense that he's pissed about the lying. You get the sense that he's pissed that she wasn't this social butterfly. And again, so to me, it was at this point, it's okay, the theory that I've settled on, and this is a comment on performance and acting, it seems like that's probably not the case anymore, right? But this is sort of the theory that I went with. So maybe, because so much of being a successful actor is, being open and, networking and, sharing with people and, he was somehow resentful of the fact that she sort of rejected that, and maybe if you want to take it a step further, in turn somewhat rejected him or something like that. But I would love to see what your thoughts and research took you on that.
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, taking the conversation full circle back to the beginning. This is, to me, a statement on the roles we all play, the masks we wear, the things we do that, we may regret or whatever. So now he's stepping into the role of a father with superficial ideals of their child, or bad expectations perhaps, or why aren't you better than this, or whatnot. So and then he flies off the handle, maybe imposing some of his own insecurities on his own child. I do have in my notes, I thought it was hilarious, or it would have been hilarious if it wasn't her dad at all, and it was just a taxi cab driver, and she handed him some money at the end. And he was just an overly a rambunctious taxi cab driver imposing all these false ideals on this young woman. But she's obviously insecure, and he's acting out and being an asshole dad of sorts. I don't, again, know why this is so hard to wrap your head around, or why this is like, I don't know.
No, I understand.
I really thought you were going to like this movie, man. It's shot wonderfully. The bokeh in the background as they're driving through Paris, and like how they shot those scenes in the car under low light conditions.
Sure, okay.
It was pretty revolutionary at the time to do with no lights.
Ryan, I'm gonna talk to you about this, and I think I wonder if it will help you illuminate my problem with the film. Okay, so, and this has come up before. Okay, and you know that I have a huge problem with films that break the rules that they create, right? Or attempt to get away with something, but they haven't done it in a certain way, right? I'm thinking of Willy's Wonderland, for example, when the protagonist actually gets captured by one of the mascots and then shows up in the next scene, and immediately I'm like, fuck you, I'm out. Your movie means nothing anymore. You set up this world where if you get captured by these characters, you die, and that's why I'm supposed to fear them, and this character got captured by a character and did not die. You broke the rules, I'm out. Done, right? This is what I feel like this film does time and time again, okay? If perhaps, let's say, even just tweaking the structure a little bit to where this is a man who actually does in fact become all of these different people and personas and actually have these experiences, and then you could sort of stitch them together over the course of a 90 to 120 minute movie and have an arc where, even though he's becoming different people, he is, learning more about himself, etc. Which, by the way, is not dissimilar from my book, Preconscious, available now. Seriously, guys, though, I did write a book. It's called Preconscious. It is on Amazon, and it totally has to do with that. Anyways, but so here's what I will say. The fact that he is an actor in this entire film, okay? He's never the characters that he dresses up as. It always keeps me at a distance. So we'll get into it a little bit later, but there's a scene, maybe it's the 6th or 7th vignette, and it's the one where he is dying, supposedly, in front of his niece or whatever, and he's an old man, and he goes to the apartment, and he gets in bed, and he has what's supposed to be this very sort of resonant, heartfelt, emotional conversation, and the opera music is swelling, and then he passes, and then a few seconds later, he's like, well, that was fun. I've got another performance to get to, or another assignment. See you later, niece. And she's like, yep, I've got another one too. Catch you tomorrow, Joe. And it's like, at that point, why do I care? How do I get emotionally invested in a character that's not a character? There was nothing that came before that for me to latch on to why I should care about this guy dying. There's nothing that comes after that I can hang my hat on. I don't understand the nature of the relationship. They just do these things in and of the moment with nothing preceding it and nothing coming afterwards. And I'm just supposed to feel the weight of that emotion? No, that's bullshit.
Jason, it's called an art film. I'm sorry, what you're looking for is the J.J. Abrams section.
Sure,
it's on row 3.
Okay, yeah.
Top shelf.
Let's analyze between the two of us who likes art films more than the other and who has seen a fuck ton more than the other. Please,
and yet
explain
here
to
we
me
are.
more
I
about
thought
art films.
You don't appreciate French New Wave cinema, or
what's funny? I actually don't like French New Wave cinema, but
I normally don't either. That's why this is fucking breaking my mind right now.
This is funny thing though, just to illustrate again. This is not French New Wave. Okay, you're mislabeling this film. French New Wave
It's
stopped.
totally French New Wave inspired.
French New Wave
is.
stopped decades ago. Okay, you're talking about Agnes
New
Varda.
Wave
You're talking about
adjacent.
Francois Truffaut. You're talking about Jean-Luc Godard. This is not French New
Right.
Wave. So, you know.
But Leos Carax has addressed that Godard is a direct inspiration from him, and the cinematographer has worked with Godard. So fuck off with that.
Okay, yeah. So then I guess the Quentin Tarantino's a 1960s Japanese filmmaker because he's so influenced by him,
No, but I'm
right?
saying if you like one, how do you not like the other?
It's
That's like
entire-
saying you like. That's like saying you like Tarantino, but you don't like blaxploitation cinema of the 1970s.
That's
It's
entirely...
like, dude,
there
bro.
are so many people that love Tarantino and not blaxploitation cinema. 100%. Like, if you don't know that those people exist, I'm here to tell you, they absolutely do. I am married to one and I was birthed by another.
Okay. Well, then
So-
you're telling me you like hot dogs, but you don't like pork tenderloin. Is what
Look,
you're telling
dude,
me.
this happens every now and then, dude. This absolutely 100% happens. For example, I'll give you a perfect example. Right now, I want everybody listening, including you, Ryan, to think of a band, a musical band that you know or you believe or everyone has told you that you should like based on everybody else that you like. And despite many, many attempts, you just can't get into them. Ryan, who is that band for you?
Radiohead.
Excellent. For me, it's Primus. Absolutely everybody tells me that I should love Primus because I love all of these different bands. So, Ryan, Holy Motors is my Radiohead / Primus. It is 100% a film that I should have loved. If you on paper, this is 100% a film that I embrace and enjoy.
Right.
However,
this is why it's blowing my mind. I thought for certain that you were going to love this film.
But
that
it's,
we'd be
it's like I
gushing
said,
over it right now.
No, dude, it's like I said. It's like its fatal flaw is that by him never actually becoming these people, by only acting, nothing carries weight. It's exactly the same way right before then. I forget if it's before or after, but the scene where he ends up shooting the banker, right? So he gets in the limo after another one of his things, and then he sees something outside, and he's like, oh shit. And he throws open this trunk, and he grabs a gun, and then jumps out in probably what I would describe as the absolute worst possible costume you should commit a crime in, which is to be completely naked except for the cloth mask that's covering your face, waving a gun as you run down the street to a crowded cafe. And he shoots the banker, and then immediately he gets capped by a bunch of people. And after about 7 seconds, the limo driver comes out and is like, sorry guys, big mistake here. He thought he was somewhere else, and picks him up, and he's like, yep, sorry about that, guys. Bloop, 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 and goes back into the limo. And it's like, so nothing matters. Absolutely nothing in this film matters.
That's the whole statement.
That's a
That's
dumb
the whole
movie.
statement.
That's a fucking
That's
dumb
the
movie.
whole statement.
I hate that statement. I hate movies that make that statement. If your entire movie is nothing happens and nothing matters, why did you fucking waste 2 hours of my time? I don't need 2 hours to hear that nothing matters. This is exactly why I hate the movie Elephant by Gus Van Sant. It's so incredibly naive to be like, Columbine was just another day, nothing we could have done. Don't waste my movie by telling me nothing happens and nothing matters. It's a waste of my time, and your movie sucks.
It does it in such a beautiful,
It's a waste of
artistic
time.
way.
I do not care. And then that's the thing. I didn't think so. I thought it was well shot. I would love to see a photograph book of Holy Motors, right? But no, when you watch a movie, you're coming in and you're telling me a story or a series of stories, right? And you're presenting me with this beautiful visuals and this beautiful audio. You can, like, all this stuff, right? But again, it's like when we watch Zardoz. It's like, if none of this amounts to anything and it doesn't make sense and it's just this fever dream, like, how am I supposed to care about anybody? I mean, you didn't really love Zardoz, and
That was
it's no
the
different.
1970s psychedelic weirdness, man. How is
it any different?
John
So,
Borman
okay, so
out in Ireland.
1970 psychedelic weirdness is different than 2012 psychedelic weirdness? Automatically worth 2 extra stars?
Yeah, actually it is to me. I would say that because this was impactful, I was taken by this, the performances, and Denny Levant is absolutely a better performer than Sean Connery was in that. It was shot better. The sound design was better. It was technically executed better. It wasn't just about studying Denny Levant's dick for 2 hours like Zardoz was about Sean Connery. It wasn't silly like a Sid and Marty Krofft 70s variety show for children like Zardoz was. Yeah, this was serious. And it did show that life's experiences now don't have the gravitas that they used to. Nothing does matter. You and I are screaming at each other over a microphone, and after we're done, we're going to hit stop and say, wow, that was a pretty good episode, bro. High five. I'm going to go to my fantasy football draft, and you're going to go get some kittens, and you're going to go put on another mask, and you're going to go do your thing, and I'm going to go wear another hat. Tomorrow, I'm going to go work on set, and I'm going to be that guy and technical guy. This weekend, I'm going to a music festival, and I'm going to go be party guy. And yeah, none of it will have an iota of weight or significance in any of the other areas of my life. I will be able to pick up stakes and roll this party onto the next chapter of my life without anybody knowing. We are very insignificant. We are small, and there's some comfort in that, and I like that. I like that you could be all these different things in your life to different people, and I thought that it was beautifully acted by Denny Levant. Did you not like his performance? Was that it? Did he not capture you because it was just over the top silliness, and you were like, "Oh, this guy's a carnival worker. He's a like a Cirque du Soleil performer," and so that whittled it down to like Blue Man Group or like a cheap Las Vegas show, and you're like, "Fuck this."
No.
Was that a part of it?
No. Normally, I'm very impressed by physicality. Things like that. Like, and yeah, I mean, he moved well, and he did a good job playing all of these different roles. And I guess to me, here's the thing. He really didn't, I mean, okay, outside of like the, troll character or whatever, he really didn't act differently. I guess that's what it was, like it wasn't like he was Peter Sellers, disappearing into 5 different roles that he created for this movie. Really, the significant props go to the makeup department for making him look so different. But his characters, outside of, like I said, maybe the troll and one other character, they didn't particularly act different, So
see, Jason, that's nationalist. You think all French people act the same?
No, I think that if a Frenchman tries to play 9 different characters, that they should have a little bit of different flavor from one to the next.
You're like,
so dude, okay, so for a perfect example,
dude with 9 different Pepe Le Pews.
At one point,
what do you want me to do?
At one point, he literally disguises himself as an Asian person. Okay, which we won't even go into the problematic nature of a French dude airbrushing himself and putting on a mustache to be Asian, first and foremost, okay? But he does not act any different than he does in the previous or the following character. He looks different, but does not act different. So again, I will give you credit for, yes, his physicality was amazing, especially, it was very impressive, the little mocap dance he did, and he's obviously a talented dude and good at gymnastics and all of those things. But again, I didn't get different characters. I got different looks. 2 different things.
All right.
Now, one thing I will tell you that I really, really liked is funny. My favorite scene in the entire movie was the intermission. I actually really loved that scene. And part of that is...
It's everybody's favorite scene.
Is it?
It's fantastic. And
it's a really good one. I was totally able to appreciate that, joyous 3 to 5 minutes just... celebrating music and people coming together and all of that. And
it's a palate cleanser. Yeah, it comes right after the dad dropping the daughter or picking the daughter up from the party and dropping her off, and then the death sequence right after that. So there's this bit of joy in between 2 very sad and lonely sequences, and again, that's how life hits you. I'll get off this podcast with you after duking it out. I'm going to go to a fantasy football draft and drink some beers and eat some pizza, and then I'm going to go to work tomorrow. So.
Yeah, and there's also just, anytime like people create music on film, I love that. And we're both huge music fans, so that type of stuff appeals to us. But like,
so
one of my favorite...
May I go ahead and take this?
Sure, go ahead,
to set this up?
By all means.
Set the scene up for the listeners, and then you can describe your take on it a little bit, just so the listeners are cued in on what we're doing here.
Sure.
So right after we get through with the dropping the daughter off scene, he gets out, and we see a long... narrow hallway. It's all stone walls, very old looking, like thousands of years old. And it's lit up at the end of the hallway, and it's dark otherwise. We see a bald man walking towards camera, and we start to hear squeeze box music or accordion music, just long kind of presses on a few notes. Then he starts to play a bit of a tune. We see that it's our Denny Levant, once again, playing a bald man now. And as he starts to go along, the tune starts to get a little bit of a bop to it, and then other accordion players start to follow suit. Now, how this is shot is one long leading shot through this old church. Now, having watched this scene a few times, it's a little off-putting because it seems like they're going down a bunch of narrow corridors. And as he's making different turns through different hallways, more and more people start to join the fray, including drummers and horn, brass players, and so forth. And I think there's a guitar player at one point.
Yeah.
The song they're playing is actually a completely retooled version of R.L. Burnside's Don't Let My Baby Ride from, I believe, 94, 93, something like that. It's one of my favorite tunes from that era. I loved it then. I remember it was a music video on MTV that blew my fucking mind. I loved the blues kind of mixed up with like the Dust Brothers, early Beck sound that it had. And then, but this is a squeeze box, stripped down accordion version of that song, and it's a jam. And they're making these turns and so forth. And then they take a break where RL would normally do his chorus breakdown, and then they kicked in full steam and they let the song play out in total. Again, one long sweeping shot, Steadicam shot. At one point, she gets on a crane, and they kind of do a, Touch of Evil, the end shot of Touch of Evil, where, she gets on a crane and the crane lifts up into the church. And so they're able to see over the top of everybody. It's sick, dude. It's done by a really, really weird musician named Dr. L, who helped score this film. If you have a chance, go look this person up. Very strange character. Irish person doing a lot of work in Africa with the Congolese and in the Ivory Coast with those musicians, a la Paul Simon from Graceland. And then again, it sandwiches that and then the following scene where we encounter death. So this was kind of meant as like a happy little palate cleanser of sorbet between two very, very serious notes in the film. All that said, Jason, what did you think about this scene?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move us along because we did talk about the assassin scene, and we did talk about as well the whole thing where he puts on the robber's mask and runs out to kill her, and then the bedside death chat. We've talked about all that. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and take us to what I guess is either the last or the second to last one, depending on how you're looking at it. And that's where, we've reached the point where Oscar is, I guess, pretty legitimately getting sick. He's got a worsening cough. He says it's just a cold, but it seems like it's more than that. And, his limo's driving, and his limo driver gets into a little bit of an accident. No, not a terribly bad one, but two limos do hit each other. And as Oscar's getting out, he notices that there's a woman over there. She seems to recognize him, asks if he has 30 minutes to talk, and he says, sure. So they kind of, get out of the cars while the limo drivers are arguing, and they end up walking to this abandoned factory. Now, this factory is being turned into these like luxury townhomes, and it immediately goes into another musical number, which there's been some things that have happened there. So it's not two musical numbers right after the bat, the way it seems talking right now. And again, to your point, Ryan, like it's really well shot. There's obvious allusions to some of the grand musicals of the past, because the way that it's set up, there's like a balcony at the top, and, we get the scene where she rushes to the balcony and like, is singing her heart out, and we get the zoom shot from below, like going up to her, like it's Evita or some shit. Right. And like, so, you definitely feel a lot of that, much like the scene earlier in the church. It's a very impressive single take for the most part. I do think maybe they make a couple edit points, but you can tell.
There's a few, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and it's worth noting that the woman is played by the great Kylie Minogue as well, who has a lovely voice.
I do like that they also had her song playing at the party earlier at one point.
Yeah, I'm
whatever
glad you
her hit
that.
was. Can't get you out of my head or something, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that was a nice little. I also liked just apparently the guy must be a huge Sparks fan because. For those that don't know, this film Annette is basically an opera set to the music of the Sparks Brothers, which now, they're having their moment in the sun after the Edgar Wright documentary. But the scene where he goes to pick up his daughter, there's that Sparks song playing right there. So
I actually did not notice that. Yeah.
It's because they basically just have like a 1 minute take of his face as he's driving to pick her up. It just kind of stays in the car with him.
I just didn't know that was the Sparks. That was my fault.
Yeah. So obvious fan there. But yeah, so, they go through this whole thing, there's this great musical thing, and then they end up walking outside and he's like, hey, lovely time, peace out, gotta go. And she's like, oh, that's fine. And then she takes off her wig and is like, well, might as well jump off this building, and fucking jumps off the building, man. And again, dude, it's just like, all of these things just happen. Like, they just fucking happen, dude. And it's like, I just met this chick and you're asking me to feel a certain way about her offing herself within 7 minutes of screen time. I'm sorry, as good of a song as it may have been, like, it takes me a little bit longer to warm up to characters. So again, dude, all of these things happen to people, and I just have not had any time to care about them, or they're people pretending to be other people.
Right, but that's just exactly it, though, Jason. All these things are happening at that rapid of a pace to all of us in every moment. And it's all how we respond to each of those things. And then we're able to jostle right in and out of them. How we respond to death or love or food or music or art or passion or any of the emotions that we feel, or just the experience of life in this modern era and how rapid, fast paced, it is. That's the exact storyline. That is the statement. That's the through point. And that particular scene, or vignette, if you will, is a direct, supposedly a direct homage or representation of his wife, who committed suicide in a similar fashion, literally right before this movie was written. And so he wrote that in there, and that was another role he had to play in saying goodbye to his wife and the mother of his child. And now he's raising his child by himself. And so that was a bit of a tip of the hat saying goodbye, baby. And very, very
which again is powerful and emotional in and of itself, but it doesn't have any connection. I said it's powerful in and of itself, but it doesn't have any connection to anything. And once again, it's like you're being asked to do so much work outside of the film. Like if that's his point, he does not give you that information anywhere in the movie, and that's the biggest issue that I have with it. So like Under the Skin, again, whatever you're able to come away with from that film, I would argue that it's all there on the film. It's obscured and it's metaphorical, but it's all there. And so much about this film seems to be like, well, when you read about it, it turns out that after the fact, he did this. And so this scene this scene in the movie represents this about him in real life without being tied to the plot of the movie. And now you're telling me this again, and it's things like that I have such a distaste for in cinema. It's really not that hard. I mean, it is hard, but it's worth the work to find ways to weave these things into a narrative. Like, I'm very sorry, but you can't just come in and interrupt me in the middle of a story, or, find me at a party and then be like, hey, guy I don't know, let me tell you about the fact that my wife just died. And then 6 minutes later, you're like, thanks for listening. And you leave, and I'm like, wow, that guy, my heart goes out to that guy. No, you don't think that. You'd be like, what the fuck just happened? And why did that guy just tell me about his dead wife? Where the hell did any of this come from? And I just had that experience time and time again with this film.
Okay.
and even the end, it's like, again, I don't understand how it's not weird for the sake of being weird, where his final assignment is to go home and take care of his wife and kid, and he stands outside smoking a cigarette in the rain or whatever the hell it is, and then he finally goes in and record scratch, his wife and kid are gorillas. For what? Why? What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, I thought they were chimpanzees. But that's
chimps, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. God damn it. I can't believe you're buying into all of this.
Dude, it was beautiful. Oh, side note, nobody ever in the history of mankind ever go with Jason to a fucking museum. He will lose his shit.
You know what's funny?
What the fuck is any of this?
You know what's funny? I hate museums.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's not parade status. I'd sooner go to a museum than a parade. And there are some really nice museums, like Long Beach Aquarium is awesome. I don't know if that counts as a museum. But yeah, dude, you take me to Mocha and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna play outside.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, it does explain a lot. The only thing that's confusing to me is that you like David Lynch. That you liked Mulholland Drive. Because I watched that movie and I don't know what the fuck is going on. And you admitted earlier in this same podcast that you had to watch that movie 10 fucking times and do a dissertation on it to finally get the fucking point of that movie.
Exactly.
And tell me what the old man is doing behind the dumpster at Winkies.
And
then, two women and then this and that. Now we're in a, old warehouse and all this and we're being jostled around and now she's an actress and we have to, feel pity for her because of this or that and love lost. And then you're going to look at this and judge the filmmaker? Like, 100%. Just boggles my mind. And if you didn't like these kinds of movies, these metaphorical movies, and you just like the through point narrative, and you wanted this to be like Diving Bell and the Butterfly is a great example. If you wanted this to be that, where we watched a beginning, middle, and end, 3-act structure, changes in people's lives, how it impacted, great cinematography, great score, that I could wrap my head around. The fact that you like these other films that are this adjacent or adjacent to this, that's what's bothering me.
Okay, so let me explain this. This is the thing. So with Mulholland Drive, I may have had to watch it 10 times, but what I didn't have to do is go online. What I didn't have to do was read a statement from the filmmaker, especially because it's David Lynch. He will never make a statement about any of his films, right? It's all on the screen, even if it's incredibly obscured. It was all on the screen.
See, I felt that about this as well.
It just took me so long to get through it. Again,
I felt that as well.
No, there is no reason. The opening scene is a perfect example. There is zero context over the course of 120 minutes that you should know that the opening relates to his coming back into cinema. You do not make that inference unless he specifically says it or someone else tells you outside of the film. That information is not on the film. His wife dying and her committing suicide, the character Kylie Minogue being a reference to his wife dying, is not in the film. You 100% had to go outside of the film and learn that. So if what I'm supposed to take from the film...
We've all dealt with
that. No. But here's the thing. If what I'm supposed to take from the film is not available in the film, you have failed. You have to put the information in the film so that I can decode it and come away with it, even if it takes several viewings. But to say you need to buy the handbook, you need to buy the compendium handbook that goes with the movie to understand it, fuck you, that's bullshit.
No, because it is, for starters, it is all on the screen. Everything I'm telling you is on the screen. I'm not filling any gaps.
Nothing about the opening scene you would have been able to infer from the film itself. True or false? What you said about the opening film 100% comes from his statements and other people's statements outside the film. Is that false or true?
No, that's absolutely false.
No. What about the film tells... Okay, let me... Answer me this question. No, I'm serious, because you just falsely answered a question. So, tell me in the film... Listen to me. Ryan, listen to me. Tell me where in the film it communicates that he took a 10-year break from filmmaking and this is his foray back into it. Where is that told?
So, if...
It's told in an article on the internet. That's my exact point.
No, I'm trying to think of a way to put this to a simpleton like you. Like if Indiana Jones did that same thing and got out of bed and walked in, and like we would be like, oh, that's kind of a cool metaphor that Indiana Jones is coming back to the movies after all these years. We haven't seen him since about 89, since Last Crusade or Killed.
Exactly, and there's context from previous films.
So, right. Well, Leos Carax has context as a French film director that I guess is pretty popular over there.
Not in a movie. There's no Holy Motors prequel. There's no film like the Leo Carax character.
He's a known public figure.
Nah, like I said, you're doing a lot of work for this guy that he didn't do. So the final sequence.
Okay, if it was Steven Spielberg, if it was David Lynch, if it was
wouldn't matter.
Wright, if it was George Lucas,
it would be exactly the same. None of it. If it's not on the screen, it's not on the screen. Why do I have to?
If George Lucas got out of bed and walked into a cinema through a secret locked door, we wouldn't say, "Oh, he found the key on how to get back into the movies." It seems like a pretty easy dot to connect. I don't know once I found out that he was ousted from cinema, that was the thing I had to look up because I didn't know much about this character. In fact, if I recall, we didn't even know how to pronounce his name correctly in the last episode. I had to Google that as well. So not knowing much about Leos Carax, I definitely had to look up a few things, but had I known about him or his career in any way, shape, or form, so he was making a statement about his own career. And so I had to fill myself in or educate myself a little bit about said career. Okay. But beyond that, I had to look up a lot of stuff about Under the Skin too. Don't kid yourself. That shit was on the screen once I figured out what it was.
I literally did not look up a single thing for Under the Skin.
I think I'm pretty much, I'm going to have to go back and listen to that, but I think I told you the things that I looked up and you said, oh, I like that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but I also disagreed with it.
I don't think you did.
I did, because we got into that whole thing about her motivations and how I was saying that she was terrified of all these new things that she was learning, and you were like, no,
we were saying the same thing different ways, right?
Either way. Point is, you're doing a lot of work here. Final sequence, Ryan. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. I think we've all expressed our mutual positions on this. There's a final sequence. It's actually not bad. And I still, again, I'm going to ask you to kind of put this in context, dude, because all of these limousines finally pull into this station, and the station is called Holy Motors. And the whole fucking movie, too, I was wondering why the hell this movie's called Holy Motors. So I was really waiting for that. So it turns out that apparently it's a business that drives around people to engage in these performances that are ultimately statements on social media. So bring all this together for us, Ryan.
No, I don't want to anymore. I'm done with this episode.
Because you can't. Because I put it in a way that you can't defend, and so you're like, you got me. So let's go ahead and move on. 3 adjectives, Ryan. What you got?
Fuck you, Jason.
That is 3. Well, no, I guess, I don't know. How many adjectives is that? I'm bad with English. I think it's 1, maybe.
I don't know, but Jason is definitely an adjective from now on, because I'm using it to describe someone that acts as pretentious as you do, but is a secret simpleton.
Finally being ousted after all this time.
I have intoxicating. Intoxicating is my first one. I thought that this movie adjusted my brain. I thought I started one way and finished another. In the same way that a narcotic or a liquor would, where I start thinking I'm fine or thinking things are a certain way, and by the end they are a completely different way. The next one I have is breathtakingly beautiful. I thought that it was shot very well. I think you would agree with that. You said that several times throughout. I thought the cinematography was fantastic. It was also all done in camera. They had a limousine built for the set. Something else I was going to bring up. They widened it so they could add lighting on the outside and modify certain things. And then they put what they did is they took that widened limousine set and attached it to an actual limousine front, because it was too much of a pain in the ass to have the divider and all the front parts of a limousine done authentically. So they took the front half and stuck it on the back half. So little things like that, camera tricks and things. Everything was done very Michel Gondry-esque, if you will, where it was all done on set or in camera. The last I would say you would also agree with, and that is niche. This is not for everyone, and including people named Jason. I have in my notes here, the last note I have is I would not recommend this to anybody. And this is a personal experience that I had with this film that I personally loved. And I thought it was wonderful art. I thought the more I did look into it, you're judging me that I had to look into it. I thought it was the other way. I thought the more I thought it was very Under the Skin-esque, where the more I would pull the layers of the onion back, the more I would learn to appreciate how it was made, what they did, who these people were. It was also my first foray into Leos Carax and all these people that worked on this film. So I was starting to research their careers and where they came from, and everyone has a wonderful story and all of that. So, this is kind of about the death and rebirth of cinema and how we consume it. I think a lot of statements were made. I'm sorry to the listener that this became a bit of a rough around the edges shouting match, but
no, dude, listeners love that
Jason
shit, dude. That's the entire reason that Siskel and Ebert were so successful. Nobody wants Siskel and Ebert to listen to them agree with one another. Are you kidding me?
I guess.
That actually, as a matter of fact, I don't know if you're listening to it. There's actually, for anyone listening to, if you haven't caught it, it came out a few months ago at this point, but it's an awesome show on the Ringer podcast about Siskel and Ebert. And that was actually one of the things about them, is how they actually tried to start their show several times and nobody watched it because they were like too agreeable. And then once they started like really leaning into the like arguing with one another, that's when everybody was like, this is interesting. So
that's true.
It's
what do we all remember about Bill O'Reilly? Fuck it, we'll do it live. That's
right. Yeah. So no, dude. So I think this is probably the widest apart we've been since
the Lives of Others.
I was gonna say since Dagon. Actually, we weren't as vocal in our differences during the Dagon review, but I think you gave that one like a D+, and I gave it like 4.5 stars. But Lives of Others, which all the way going back to episode 3, boys and girls, of season 1. Definitely. I think this is the most that we've disagreed on a film since then, and the loudest and most vocally we've done so on air. So hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. Like I said, I think it's fun. But if you guys are like, "Daddy, stop fighting," we can bring it back for you. Just go ahead and email us. Let us know if you like the vocal thrashings, or if you want us to play nice with one another.
What are your 3 adjectives? I'm really curious to hear.
So first one, incoherent. Should not be surprising to anybody. Like I said, I thought this was just a pastiche of random things thrown against the wall and stitching them together, and hoping you liked what you saw. I'm not going to explain it to you, but there's a lot there if you look into it. And again, I was not playing that game. If there was it was also over obscured. And again, that can be a good thing. I mean, like I said, David Lynch definitely can be. And also, Ryan, it's worth noting, I am not a huge David Lynch fan. As a matter of fact, his first 2 films before he went up his own ass are my favorite films. Now, Eraserhead, you could obviously say, of his filmography, that is. Eraserhead, you could argue, is definitely very, metaphorical and thick. But The Elephant Man is just a very brilliant emotional story that's well told. And when you start getting into stuff like, I wasn't a Twin Peaks fan, was not a Wild at Heart fan. From what I can see, like, there's no way I'm going anywhere towards near Inland Empire. Fucking 2.5 hour movie. I don't like Blue Velvet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but I love Mulholland Drive and Eraserhead and The Elephant Man. So kind of like we said at the top of the show, like we often filter out people's lesser works, right? Or maybe we were talking about that off the air, but yeah, like I can love someone and they might have 50 films to their name and I only dig 4 of them, but I love those 4 and so I love them, and it's like I'm just filtering out the other 46 that I didn't really care for.
Yeah, I think that where you and I think the disagreement that you and I are having, that I'm deducing now or realizing now, is that you feel like this was just a bunch of nonsense thrown at you without any kind of stitching together. And I feel like that there was a statement, that there was something I could derive from it. And you're telling me you didn't get anything from it. And that, my friend, is art. You and I both could walk past a statue or a painting and it speaks to me and it doesn't you. Yep. I'm looking at, certain things or getting certain things out of it, whether it's the color palette used or the lighting or the materials or whatnot. And then the absolute opposite is true at the very next piece over, sometimes even by the same artist. Yeah. And, it's very interesting. I thought that personally, this film was precisely why we have this podcast. I thought that these discussions are healthy. I thought that, because, there's plenty of podcasts out there talking about Forrest Gump and Jurassic Park, but you don't need us to tell you about why you should go see these movies.
Those are self-evident.
I would, I think it's also worth stating that too, and I'll toss it back to you, that if you look online, literally every single discussion about this film goes exactly this way.
I was going to say the same thing. You kind of indicated as much when we were talking about it a little bit, that it's just like a very divisive film. And so really obviously, you saw that over this last hour and a half, exactly why that is.
Yeah. But it impacted me so much that I did feel passionate about it. I love this. I would go watch this again right now, and that's why I feel so strongly about it. And parallel that or pair that with the fact that I was so shocked that you didn't care for it or that you didn't get anything from it, because I absolutely do respect your opinions on film. And you and I do at least have some overlap in the Venn diagram of what we do.
We agree way more than we disagree, dude. Like, our ratings are usually right there, but then every now and then a film comes along, and like you say, it's going to be a subjective and divisive film, and again, we're not the only people that disagree with this nature. And even look, sometimes we may agree, but our opinion is just as divisive to the rest of the cinema world, right? Like I'm thinking of Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Like every single person we've talked to from other podcasts loves that movie. Like not just Craig and Seamus over a repeat viewing, but like everybody else is like, oh, one of my favorite horror movies. Oh, it's so funny, this and that, right? So, I mean, you know.
Dude, I've heard that from friends. I was telling them, you know, oh, you got to hear this sketch that we did, you know, for the country store rap and all of that for Dale and Tucker versus Evil. And they're like, oh, I love that movie. I can't wait to hear that episode. And I'm like, oh, no, never mind. Don't listen to the episode.
Yeah, I know it's also kind of dangerous too because I'm afraid people are gonna like feel like we're like shitting on their favorite movie and be like, nah, I don't like them anymore. They shit on my favorite movie.
You know what, Jason? Fuck them.
If this episode showed you anything, it's that we will die on the hills of our opinions. But hey,
I will shit on your dreams.
But this is why the listeners come to us, isn't it, listeners? For the hot takes. For the firm opinions, for two people who we may be incredibly wrong, but you'll never know it from how vociferously we argue our position.
Oh, we'll be passionately wrong. No one's more wrong than me. I'm the most wrong person you'll ever meet in your entire life.
But you never know it talking to us.
I will die on the hill of being wrong. Let's do this.
Awesome. I never did throw
No idea why I'm single.
So I didn't throw out my third adjective, and my third adjective is odd.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's one of our hybrid adjectives, and it's oddly self-assured. Now, this is, and I kind of wanted to come back and I was hoping that this would come up organically. I guess it didn't, but I do want to say this, Ryan, and it very much speaks to your point. And maybe this is a film. I'm even going to come out and say that I bet my opinion could be swayed down the line. Okay. And this is why, is because every now and then I watch a movie. Okay. And I may not come away with it understanding exactly what the statement was, or statements if there's multiple, right? But the film is conducted and comprised in such a way that I feel like the filmmaker 100% knows what they are saying. And I didn't just maybe receive that message, right? So that's kind of like when I started off the show saying like it was really hard for me to like, you know, wrap my head around why I didn't like this movie, because again, like I felt like he was very much in control of the film, you know, like we talk about, you know, filmmakers, you know, making the film that they set out to make. And I do 100% feel that this dude made exactly the movie that he set out to make. And my challenge is that no matter how long I sat there and thought about it, I couldn't figure out what the fuck he was trying to say. I couldn't figure out why he made this movie, why he felt it was important for me to sit here for 2 hours and watch this. You know, before the film started, I thought it was really just going to be a series of, you know, fantastic set pieces. That's really ultimately what I thought I was getting. I didn't expect it to be heavy on plot, but I didn't expect it to be trying to make any statements about the human condition or anything like that. I thought it was going to be one of these like, hey, here's a bunch of cool set pieces and cool music and some cool visuals, like, you know, like a Jean-Pierre Jeunet or Michel Gondry minus like the social commentary, right? And because it was rather the opposite. Like the film I felt like it had a lot to say, and it was talking a different language, man. It just everything out of his mouth, it was like, what? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, huh? But to you, you're like, you know, right there with every word, like understanding every single thing he says and enthralled by it.
It's not that I was understanding every word that he said. It's and I think that I was just interested in everything I was seeing, listening. I wanted to know more about it, and so if I didn't know, I craved to know more, and that's what spurned the deep dives. And that's where I got some of these, you know, fill in the blanks moments. But in all fairness, I like I said earlier, I did do a lot of that with John Glazer's Under the Skin as well. You're telling me that you didn't, you just got it all and you know, and it made sense to you right out the bat. I think Under the Skin made more sense to me. I think that the deep dive paid off for Under the Skin. It filled in those blanks for me and helped me kind of justify some of the things I felt about it, that I was on the right track and so forth. Whereas, and also Under the Skin was a repeat viewing for me.
That's true. Yeah.
So the first time I told you, I did not care for that film. And when I got back to it and watched it under this lens. So maybe, you know, if you ever do get back around to this film again, it doesn't sound like you will, but if you ever did, maybe you'd appreciate it a little more with some of these discussions that we had and kind of looking at it from under a different lens. But hey,
I could definitely see that
there's
happening.
plenty more out there.
I don't know that it 100% would, but I think it's definitely something I will come back to after probably a few years or so and, see if there's any sort of different response to it. In the meantime, there's just way too many films that we have to watch, including all these films on our master list that we're going to get to here in a moment. But, Ryan, the time has come for us to go ahead and formalize this. And I want you to go ahead and start off I'll tell you what, no, let's be optimists. Let's go out on the high note. So let me go ahead and
let me shit on this
formalize my 2.5 out of 5 stars for Holy Motors. Ryan, give me your significantly better grade rating.
I'm giving this an A, right down the middle A. This is one of my favorite films that we've watched on this podcast. I thought that it was just gorgeous. It was a wonderful work of art. And it made me, again, want to know more, both know more about this film and other films that these people have all been in. Not the least of which is a film that's been on my list for a while, and I don't think it's on our list. This may be a season 3 edition if we make it that far, but that is Eyes Without a Face.
Dude, yeah, that's actually on HBO Max right now. I just added it to my queue.
The original from 1960, yeah. The taxi, or the limo driver, Edith Scoob, is the woman from that film.
Oh, really? Oh, no,
and the mask she puts on at the end in the limousine is actually the mask from Eyes Without a Face.
That's awesome.
So, I'm really looking forward to seeing that
cool
as well. So all these different little things or tentacles from this film, all from Eyes Without a Face all the way to Annette and everything in between. A, right down the board. I can't give it an A+, but I'll give it an A.
Oh yeah, I mean that's very, very generous. I don't think anybody's gonna complain about getting an A. So I'm sure my parents would have liked to have seen a lot more of those when I was in high school. So But anyways, guys, so yes, this has been our very spirited discussion of Holy Motors. Would love to see what you guys think about this film. Obviously, me and Ryan are usually a lot closer in our opinions of the films, and we were very far off on this one. So would love to hear what you guys think about Holy Motors. You can hit us up a number of different ways. First of all, we've got the social medias. Esoterica Cinema is on Twitter as well as Instagram. And then, of course, we've got the email. We are keeping the email up because everybody loves to tell us about their favorite muffins and, interestingly enough, recently, crepes. A lot of crepe fans out there right now, which, you can throw chocolate, Nutella, you can go sweet, savory, doesn't matter. Either way, crepes are awesome. You might be having a good one.
Jason?
Hit me up with it. Yes?
You know who loves crepes?
Who loves
Leos Carax.
Hey!
That man loves a good crepe.
Well, maybe me and him could bond over crepes then. And then,
that's fair.
And then I'll give his film another shake. And then next thing you know, we're like skipping arm in arm to Sparks Brothers. But either way. And then I suppose you don't have to strictly hit us up about muffins and crepes. You can talk to us about things like films and our program and the movies that we should consider putting on for season 3 and just overall vibes of what you're digging on.
What you digging on?
A little reference to the bonus episode there. esotericacinema@gmail.com. So, And then also, just to remind you guys, esotericacinema.com. That's right. We have the website. If I do say so myself, it's fan-friggin-tastic. You got some animatics up there. You've got some direct links to web players. And, of course, you have access to our master list of films for Season 2. Because we know that you guys like to play along and see what films we're going to choose at the end of the episodes, like we're about to get into right now. Oh, but wait, not yet, because, Ryan, turns out we're still doing that giveaway. Why don't you tell them what's up?
Give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We need to see it. Screenshot that shit. Send it over to Jason or at Esoterica Cinema on Twitter. And we need to see it. And then you get $50. Let us know how to get it to you. We're dealing in all the cash apps of sorts. So not sure how it translates to your country or region of choice. We realize we are global now, worldwide hits.
Thanks, Germany. Thanks, UK. Thanks, Russia.
We just need to see a review. It could be a good review. It could be a shit review. You could review us like Jason just reviewed Holy Motors and rip us a new asshole. So you guys don't make any sense. What are you doing? How do you guys have?
None of it means anything.
How do you guys have a career who listens to this? But yeah, let us know what we're doing right or wrong. That's really the end of it, is we just want to connect with our listeners. We got listeners last season. And we were like, holy shit.
Across
people,
the world.
it's a Sally Field moment. You like us, you really like us. And we just want to hear from you and know more about you, from you, what you like or don't like about the show, about us personally. Get that over to us, screenshot it, send it to us any way you can. We've been plugging our socials every episode leading up to now. So find us, get it to us, and we'll get you $50 if we choose your
I was gonna say,
review.
yeah. So it's not like we're paying $50 for a single review. Just to be clear,
No, it's a contest.
We're doing a raffle. So the cost of entry is to leave us a review on Apple Reviews. Go ahead and send us that screenshot to esotericacinema@gmail.com or any of the Twitters or Instagrams, and then your name will go in. We're gonna draw it at the end of the month here. Winner gets $50. Fan-friggin-tastic. All right, Ryan. With that out of the way now, let's go ahead and choose our next film.
Let's see how my week's going to go.
So, once again, 1 through 200, we are using our random.org true random number generator to select a number. And you're going to go ahead and take out your master list. And I feel like we've been living in this area recently. We just went ahead and we just pulled film 60. So, again, go to your list and pull film 60. Oh, that's because we pulled 68 for Holy Motors, and before that we pulled 59 for Harakiri. I don't know how random this random number generator is. And then before that it was 57 for Grave of the Fireflies. So we're going to be right here. Yeah.
So we're hanging in the H's then. Is it, hold on. Let me think here. What could it be? No, I got nothing. I'm trying to think of H films. There's not a lot of, apparently there's a lot of H films.
Dude, we have a ton of H films, dude. We have like at least 10 H films. Number 60 is a little film called Hard Candy.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
okay.
so
I haven't seen this since it came out.
I think we actually might have watched this together in film school. Does that seem familiar? Or did we watch Audition? Because this is basically like American Audition.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it was a little,
From what
it's
I
a little
remember.
Red Riding Hood tale
I don't think I saw
of
it.
sorts.
Is it
This is the
previously
the great Ellen.
I was going to say, is it
Elliot
previously
Page?
Ellen, now Elliot Page?
Absolutely.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Look at that.
This was from 2005, so this would have been right in our film school era. So we may have watched this together, actually.
I also now that I'm thinking about it, though, I don't think I saw this one. I think I just watched Audition and then assumed that this would be exactly the same film and didn't watch it. Do you want to go ahead and give a formal description real quick?
All right, Jason. Hard Candy from 2005, directed by David Slade. I forgot David Slade directed this. Hard Candy is wrapped up here as a psychological thriller film focusing on a 14-year-old female vigilante's trapping and torture of a man she suspects of being a sexual predator. I do remember this is a bit of a Red Riding Hood tale, Turn of the Tides, and in fact has Elliot Page on the box art. I think shown as a Red Riding Hood in shorts with a handbag. I believe
I do remember that image.
Big bear trap.
Yep.
So, David Slade has done some Black Mirror stuff, did some Twilight stuff, did 30 Days of Night, that werewolf zombie movie, vampire movie, that's what it was. So he's kind of all over the map on what he's done, some for the better, some for the worse. Done a lot of TV. So I look forward to going back and revisiting this. I've always loved the great Elliot Page, even in Umbrella Academy. So this will be a fun one. And I don't think it's very long, so we should be able to blow through it.
In and out. There you go. So, yeah, guys. Again, hopefully you enjoyed our very spirited discussion here of Holy Motors. Definitely check that one out if you haven't, and let us know what your opinion on the film is. And then go ahead and watch Hard Candy. So once again, just anybody listening, this is a very violent film. This is going to be a very explicitly violent film, like bordering on torture porny if it is the film that I think it is. So if you are the squeamish sort, I don't think you're going to want to watch this film. Everybody else, make sure to watch Hard Candy with Elliot Page and join us next time on Esoterica Cinema.
Hey, look! There's Monsieur Day.
He's going into the sewer. Get him!
I'm almost home. You'll never catch me. There he goes.
Down that way.
Oh, these kids are always up to me lucky 7 fingers. With pinky ring, middle, index, and the thumb. A balance part of my daily activities.
Oh, hey, kids.
Now you can get your own box of lucky severed fingers from Corporal Mills, part of your balanced daily activities. Each box comes with a cigar cutter inside, so you can remove your own fingers and play at home.
Cool, I'm gonna use my fingers to pick my nose.
I'm gonna put all my fingers on one hand. What were you gonna do with them?
Oh, I'd hoped you wouldn't ask me that. You see, it gets lonely down here, and I was building my own lady friend, one piece at a time. She's almost complete. I named her Jillian. It was a balanced part of my daily activities.
So weird.
That's why severed fingers are for kids.
Don't forget to cauterize those wounds, kids. New boxes of lucky severed fingers, a balanced part of your daily activities. Find them in stores next to Sack of Arms and Legs, wherever body parts are sold.
Lucky severed fingers, now I can build a lady.
From the imagination of acclaimed author Ashton Macaulay comes the next great American anti-hero, Nick Ventnor, in Whiteout. Nick is a bit of a lush, preferring whiskey to water and bar hopping to exercise. But when a mysterious benefactor hires Nick to find the lost gates of Shangri-La, Nick sobers up just enough to take on the case. Featuring non-stop action and a hilarious wit, Whiteout by Ashton Macaulay is a laugh-a-minute thrill ride that will keep you turning the pages until the very end. Whiteout, available now in ebook, hardcover, and paperback versions, online and everywhere books are sold. Published by Aberrant Literature.